Okay.
Now we're live. I'm live with Kyle Melinn of Mirs News. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Steve. It's good to see your face again.
Well, Kyle, I feel kind of great. It's a lot of real sunny down here, believe it or not, as I'm locked in my studio. Um, I've got to ask you, Mirs News, you cover everything going on in Lansing, and there were a lot of happenings today in Lansing with the governor's announcement. But before we get to what the governor talked about, I want to talk about what's going on with the state legislature. The Republicans have come up with a plan. Tell us about that plan they've come up with.
So the House Republicans have come out with a plan this morning that is a little different than the Senate Republicans' plan. The House Republicans would like to divide the state up into 3 different reaction tiers based on where each individual county is with its COVID-19 cases. So if you're a county like Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, with a high number of COVID-19 cases and relatively high hospital occupancy, you are going to be in what's called tier 1, and you're basically going to continue being in the stay home, stay safe order that the governor currently has everyone in. All the other counties would be put into a different tier, which would allow for certain business to commence as long as everybody practiced safe distancing. If you were in a vulnerable population or if you were tested positive for COVID-19, you would also stay at home. There is a second tier, an intermediary tier between the two, that a task force that would consist of the state's MIOSHA director, the state's health director, and 7 other people would determine if a county is starting to see a significant uptick in cases, and there would be kind of that middle ground where you wouldn't be necessarily quarantined at home, but you wouldn't have the kind of free reign that you would have otherwise. So there would be certain restrictions, like restaurants could offer curbside service, but they couldn't open their doors, those kind of things.
Kyle, what shocked me most about that is if I read it and I read between the lines of it, it looks like Detroit could be closed off. Am I right? I mean, if we use that tiered system, since we have the highest level of outbreak, the highest level of death, the highest level of sickness, it looks like the Republicans could actually close off Detroit if their plan went through. Am I correct, or am I just being an alarmist?
Southeast Michigan, I mean, those counties, yeah, Wayne, Oakland, Macomb, those 3 would be in its own tier, yes. So they would have different standards than everybody else under that plan, yes.
So potentially, they could make Wayne, Oakland, and Macomb stay home, shelter in place, while the rest of the state is allowed to go free.
Yes.
That's crazy. That's crazy. You
Well,
realize,
I think from his
of course, there would
standpoint,
be armed conflict with that,
No, I understand. I think his standpoint is, though, they are not seeing hundreds and hundreds of cases outside of Wayne, Oakland, Macomb. And because they live in a rural environment, let's say where he is, up in 107th and Levering and Emmett County, where people don't live door to door to door to door to each other, that there is already social distancing going on, and the type of precautions that are needed when you're in a very tight urban setting isn't necessary in rural Michigan. I think that's the point he's trying to make.
But is it possible that Wayne County, since it actually has the highest level of outbreak, would be cordoned off from Oakland and Macomb?
It's possible, but I think Wayne and Oakland are trending at about the same levels, just based on what I'm seeing with the numbers. Macomb's a little bit behind now, but yeah, Oakland and Macomb are kind of going in the same pace, so they could be quarantined off, separate from everyone else.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking with Kyle Melinn, the editor of Mirs News, about all things Lansing. You guys have been on the cusp of all this stuff, Kyle. Today at the governor's press conference, she announced that she was going to create a task force to study the disparities, the racial disparities in the COVID-19 outbreak. Explain this task force that she wants to create.
Yeah, so there's going to be 25 people that is chair, a 25 people task force that's headed by the Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist. He's also going to have the state's public health director involved. We're going to have the president of Wayne State involved. There's also doctors and people from across the state who are going to be taking a look at why African American populations have been impacted more by COVID-19 than their white counterparts. Why is it that the state is 14% African American, but 40% of the deaths are African American? I mean, why is that? And so they're going to be taking a deep look into that and see if there's anything that can be done in state policy, not just in regards to COVID-19, but in regards to policy in general that can be done to try and separate or try and adjust that or fix that situation. And the lieutenant governor spoke at length about this today. I thought the most noteworthy thing he said was that this isn't something we're just going to kick around for 3 months, issue a report and have it sit on a shelf somewhere. This is something that they're going to be working on in real time. And if they see something that can be adjusted midstream, they're going to bring it to the governor's attention and they're going to do it, whether that be reporting or any other type of requirement. If there's something that they can see that would result in an improvement, they're going to make it midstream and not do it 6 months from now.
Melinn, the free press. I don't usually champion the free press, but I'm going to tell you this. They had an excellent article this morning that discussed this racial disparity. And, they came up with it. They said it's not, it's nothing new. It's been there. The free press finally came to, I don't know what this task force can do any different than what the free press stated this morning. I mean, what could they actually do?
I don't know. That's a good question. They're going to come together, I guess, and brainstorm ideas. I don't have any right off the top of my head. I think we all kind of know what the problem is. And the problem is that the African-American populations in Detroit have a lower income level than other parts of the state. They don't have the same access to foods. They don't have the same access to healthcare. They don't have the same access to everything. I mean, these shouldn't be a mystery to anybody. I mean, this has been kicking around, at least Lansing. We've known about this for years and years and years. This isn't anything new. It just had to take maybe a novel virus to come and start wiping out large portions of the population before a bright light had to be shined on it. But as far as you're concerned, Steve, I don't think there's anything that this task force comes up with that you've never heard before.
So is it just window dressing? I mean, what is it? I mean, why?
No, it's not window dressing. I don't think it's window dressing. I think it's more about shining a light on something that should have been maybe shined a light on before.
And maybe prepping for the future, so this doesn't happen again, so we can fix the problems of today. All right, Kyle, tomorrow, okay, I hate to go rapid fire with you, but tomorrow is the filing deadline. All these candidates have been hustling, trying to get petitions signed. There have been some very noteworthy candidates that did not make the petition threshold, but they got a gift from a federal judge today. Talk about what this federal judge has done.
So the federal judge reacted to a lawsuit that was filed by a congressional candidate in the 11th district named Asaki. And Asaki was looking at the filing deadline and determined that because of the stay-at-home order that the governor issued shortly after St. Patrick's Day, that he was not going to be able to collect the 1,000 signatures he needed in order to make the ballot. So he filed suit. And what a federal judge said very early this morning, right after midnight, is that, you know what, he's right. And if you are a candidate who filed for office before March 10, you only have to turn in half of the signatures you would normally have to turn in, and you have until May 8th to do it. So candidates like Asaki, who claim that he was 70% there, theoretically will have the signatures needed to qualify for the ballot. Now, we don't know what the governor's office and the attorney general are going to do yet about this. They have not filed a response. We have not gotten a response from them when we called and asked for comment. So we're still trying to figure out where they're going to go. But as it stands right now, these candidates did get a gift. And instead of April 21, they're looking at May 8.
I had one judicial candidate almost jump through the phone when I read her the decision. The judge, I mean, because it's not out there. It's not really way out there. So I read her the decision, but I talked with another sitting judge today, and they're like, well, did they file their candidate committee before the 10th of March? I said, well, they had an existing candidate committee. He says, no, the candidate committee is specific for the office that you're running for, which is really, really interesting. So there's some people that may be really happy and now really down low.
Yeah, that's a good point, Steve. I didn't think of that. So yeah, if you had filed a campaign committee for circuit court, but you were running for district court, that wouldn't work. That's a good point.
You would have to have a district, a separate one. If you're a district court judge and you're filing for circuit court, you would have to have a different campaign committee.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Going to be hot times in the old city tomorrow. I hope tomorrow you'll catch us because your friend Nicole Small is going to be on with me. We're going to see who actually filed for these various state rep seats. The craziest one is Isaac Robinson seat, the dearly departed Isaac Robinson seat. These people smell blood in the water. They're anything to get a free job. So it's pretty amazing what's happening next. I'm also going to be watching real carefully that Kim Worthy Wayne County prosecutor's race. This is really interesting. You got an upstart going up against her, which would seem nuts, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Kyle Melinn, I want to thank you for joining me. You've been awesome. And, later.